Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is Rashbi, Rabbi Shmuel ben Yehoshua, or Rabbi Stephen Epstein. So hope you're doing well. And thank you for allowing me my indulgence, name Rashbi. I know that a lot of sages use abbreviated names like that, like Rambam, Rabbi Moses ben Maimon. Nachmanides, all right, who was Ramban, Rabbi Moses ben Nachman. So, not that I think I'm a sage, I aspire to that, and I certainly respect all of our sages, but I kind of like it. What can I tell you? So, hope you're doing well. Thank you to everybody that showed up on Sunday for our monthly in-person learning experience. The kids had a great time. They made, I guess, little cutouts of Joseph's coat of many colors. Wasn't really a coat of many colors. Some people think it was, but what it really was it was a very fancy, embellished coat that in ancient times denoted a chieftain. And that's really what kind of made his brothers jealous, not just that it was a nice coat that their daddy gave him, but what it meant. So, and we had a bunch of adults that we had a nice little discussion. Somebody wanted to know about the service that we do on the weekday morning service. So we had a little discussion and a little lesson on that. And there was a lot of adults, not just the parents of the kids, but other people came. And I throw that out because I'm going to invite anybody that would like to show up for that, while our wonderful staff of Shelley and Zoe and Michelle, take the kids and have crafts and do some fun things with them, teaching Bible stories and hands-on learning by doing. I do something with the adults, and it's all learning. And it's so wonderful to see a lot of people that are learning Judaism, that are new to Judaism, that are choosing Judaism after they're born, become so interested and engage in some very meaningful discussions. So there it is. There is a saying that was in the Daf Yomi, the daily reading of the Talmud, the daily page, as we go through Bava Metzia, which is one of the tractates that discuss torts or civil litigation. And the nice thing about it, it's very, very critical thinking, because one of the reasons that a lot of the discussions end with let the matter remain unresolved is because rabbis on both sides of the issue bring a lot of verification and validation to bear, a lot of proof. One of the things that was mentioned today, without going into excessive detail, was basically what we say in English or in our country, you can't win an argument with a fool. That's actually in Proverbs. And how does that bear on today's current events? Well, as some of you know, the International Court of Justice just issued arrest warrants, not just for the Hamas terrorists that perpetrated their barbaric disaster upon Israel, but also on some of the leaders of Israel that are trying to defend Israel. And they are asking them to account for the quote unquote genocide of 18,000 Gazan casualties. Now, notice the number. Different than what they've been saying, because basically the Gazan Health Ministry has exaggerated the numbers. And they've exaggerated to the point that even the UN, after seeing verification and validation, that this is a more realistic number. So what does this have to do with today's or this week's Torah portion, Bechokotai? Well, let me try to answer a question that a lot of people ask. And the big question is, how can God let this happen? So let me be presumptuous and arrogant and give you my answer for what it's worth, and you certainly can have your opinion, and many people will throw their hands up and say we can't know. From my point of view, I think it's pretty obvious, and that is that when God created humankind, God gave us free will, gave us frontal lobes so we can engage in critical thinking. Adam and Eve engaged in critical thinking. Okay, they had a choice. God said, don't eat from the forbidden fruit of that tree, the tree of knowledge. And they decided that they were going to do it anyway. Notice I say they. Okay, let's forget the whole thing about Eve. Adam walked through the garden. He knew what was in the garden. He knew what he was eating. When he ate the fruit and gained knowledge, as did Eve, and God said, what have you done? And what did Adam do? He tried to throw Eve under the bus by saying, oh, that woman that you gave me tempted me. No, sorry, didn't work. God didn't buy it. So the point is, we have free will. Now, that free will has consequences. The consequences for Adam and Eve was being basically banished from the Garden of Eden. Now you have to go out and you have to work, and a woman will bear, a man will labor for his sustenance, and a woman will give birth in labor. That's the way it is. The Nazis made a decision. They decided to blame their ultra depression on the Jews, and they killed 6 million of us. And as a result, Germany was crumbled. And even today, they are still trying to get over it. Spain, with their Inquisition. And by the way, from what I understand, Spain was the least of Portugal and France. They were a lot worse. And what happened to Spain? They had the conquistadors ruling the ocean. Now look at them. They're barely a power. So that's what happens. We have free will, and God is holding us accountable. Hence, Yom Kippur. We know this. And that's why we Jews strive every year during the high holidays to take stock of our sins, things that we may have done wrong, things that we don't think we did wrong, but we did anyway, and look to overcome it. So this week's portion, Bechokotai, is one of two places. The other place is Deuteronomy, and Bechokotai ends the book of Leviticus, and it contains something called the Tochacha, which, by the way, is one reading, whether you're reading the full Kriya, the full Parsha, or whether you're doing a triennial, one of the 3 yearly readings where it's, theoretically 1/3 of it. And it's about 34 verses. And it discusses the dire consequences of not following the commandments. And the consequences are in 5 stages, and they get worse and worse as you go along. So there's maybe 8 verses or so where God says, if you do what you're supposed to do, and it's a lot like the second paragraph of the Shema, after the V'ahavta, B'hayayim Shemo Tishmo L'Masvatai, if you go ahead and follow the commandments, the rain will come in its proper seasons. That is enough rain to water the crops while they're growing, and just a little bit of a drizzle to keep them nourished, after that, so that they don't flood them out. And that's basically the way it starts. It says, if you do what you're supposed to do, things will be great. And that's basically all it says. Then it gets really down in the dirt about, or down in the mud, I guess is the expression, about, okay, if at first you stop following the commandments, then you are going to bear the consequences, which it's going to have a hard time growing your produce, and the ground's going to be pretty bad. And then the next stage, and it keeps getting worse, is that the ground won't yield at all. You will be chased away by conquerors, etc., until finally it's just so dastardly. It would make this an R or X rated discussion. It's that bad. So we have free will. We can decide what we want to do, and there are consequences. Now, this isn't just about not following the commandments. Okay, God says, like wrap tefillin. Let's say you don't wrap tefillin. You think you're going to go walk outside and get hit by a car. The point is, if you don't wrap tefillin every day, and I'm not, it'd be great to see all wrap tefillin every day, but if you don't, it is what it is. Tefillin's a reminder. You put tefillin on that arm and you put it in between your eyes on your forehead, then you're reminded to do things. If you abandon the commandments, you're abandoning a righteous life. That's what happened in Israel over and over again. You had these kings that thought they were greater than they have commandments. I'm the king. I do what I want. And they started getting into idolatry. And it's not just about worshiping an idol, it's all the things that come with worshiping an idol. Not being righteous, thinking you're better than other people. And therefore, when you have slaves, and Judaism is unique among all the other nations of this planet in that you're supposed to treat people with respect, no matter who they are. And they think, well, I'm better than them. I could treat them any way they want. Now you're causing discord. You're making your own laws. You're not being fair and just, and people are having a hard time. This is what following the commandments are all about. The Tochacha also, when you see the reading, when you hear the reading, it's supposed to be like this, in almost a whisper, barely audible. Why? Because if you say it out loud, like you mean it, like you're doing a regular reading, heaven forbid that what you're saying comes true. And that's something we don't want. So let's take a lesson from the Tochacha. Let us observe commandments. Let us adhere to God's teaching. And let us promote God's teaching, even in this crazy world. Because if you will see what happens. Even though we see a disaster, God shelters us and keeps us going. I'll leave you with that. Thank you very much. Shabbat Shalom. And thank you for listening.